My mom had an affair with her sister's husband. I am the product of that and also the family secret. I grew up not having any father figure in my life, and when I was about 8 I started asking who my father was. At first my mom was very evasive on the subject and finally gave me his name. I instantly realized it was my uncle's name and started asking questions. My father has never acted as a father to me. From what my mom has told me, when she told him she was pregnant he wanted nothing to do with it, and I believe he essentially wanted me aborted. Whether you do want to look down on my mother for this is up to you. Believe me, I have had all the arguments, the name calls, and let out my view on her doing that over the years. I can't understand why she would have got in that situation, but she thought she was in love, and even though I don't understand, it's happened and it's in the past. I have had no relationship with him. I have never received a gift from him, cards for birthdays or Christmas, etc., directly from him, or had no direct communication. He spoke to a lawyer when I was a baby who apparently told him to give the bare minimum in terms of financial support. This would mean my mum wouldn't have to go via court to force financial assistance. This figure was less than what the official child support system would have made him pay, but I think my mother felt so guilty for what she had done behind her sister's back and felt so ashamed that she didn't pursue it. My point of this post is to ask for advice about what to do. Up until a few years ago, I thought maybe I will just keep this secret for the rest of my life from my dad's other children and my other cousins. They probably think my mother had a one-night stand and the man disappeared. I know my father and his wife are adamant they should never find out. All of his children are now grown-ups between 18 to 28, and therefore I don't see why this should be kept secret for my father's benefit, and for my auntie who doesn't want to bring up the topic. My mother and my auntie have put this behind them and actually have a good relationship as sisters. They remain close. I believe this is maybe because our side of the family are Catholic and we don't have much family drama. I have always been treated well by my auntie. She has given me Christmas cards and small gifts. Stuff like toiletries or pajamas. I don't want to upset her as she is as innocent a party to this as I am, but I am so tired for being the family secret. My father has worked a decent job and over a number of years has built up a business of buying properties to be rented out. I never knew how many properties were actually being managed until a conversation with my half-sister 3 years ago. We sat at dinner and she essentially boasted how her and her brothers don't need to worry about the future, as they will be able to use the property portfolio in the future to support themselves financially. I've mulled on his for a long time and I'm at the point where I want to tell my half-sister everything. She is the one I grew up closest to. For the past few years since that conversation of her telling me about his assets, I've felt pissed off that he could have done more financially, and I've felt more guilt from hiding the fact we are not just cousins from my half-sister. After her telling me about the property portfolio our father has, I was sat there silently fuming inside as he has acted like he doesn't have enough money to give to my mum for me. My mum could barely afford to look after me growing up and I missed out on stuff because we couldn't afford it. When I got to about 15, he conveniently kept forgetting to send my mum the check he was meant to. It would be Christmas time and we would be up at their house. On our departure my mum would have to usher him and remind him to pay. I didn't know any of these conversations had happened until recently, but when I went to university my mum asked if he could help. His response was that he has 4 other kids to pay for and that he won't. She has also asked him if he will leave anything for me as inheritance. He told her it's none of her business and only said, "How do you know I won't leave her anything?" Which I view as a cop-out, and believe that I will never receive anything if he has his way. There is no legal documentation of me being his child. I also asked to have him on my birth certificate 2 years ago and he refused to even discuss it. My mom had to then unexpectedly turn up at his house to try to have a conversation about it. He refused again. And my auntie refused to let the conversation happen under her house. As the situation goes, this is currently a lose-lose situation for me. I have already lost out on having a father figure growing up. My father won't acknowledge me as his child and I have grown up having to keep this secret from my half-siblings for his benefit. In return, I have had minimal financial assistance, and will probably never receive anything in inheritance. He has refused to put his name on my birth certificate or let his own family, his mother, his sisters, etc., find out about me. Sadly his mother passed away last year from cancer. He also lost a sister a few years ago from cancer, and whilst I know they had good relationships with my half-siblings, they never knew I existed as his daughter. Just because he wants to keep this a secret doesn't suit me anymore. I've matured and realized I'm not protecting my half-siblings from anything. They would be shocked, but this wasn't my fault and I shouldn't have to keep pretending that we aren't more than cousins. This may seem like I only care about the money. This is not true. I have accepted that I will likely get nothing from him. However, I want to sit my half-sister down and tell her the truth. Once he passes and it turns out he left me nothing, he will look heartless if they do know by that stage we are siblings. If this were you, how would you deal with the situation? In reality, I don't expect anything financially. I don't want to go down a route of blackmail either. I don't see why I should still be a secret. This is still a very emotive subject for me. I used to not be able to talk about it without breaking down, and genuinely thought his actions of disregarding me reflected my value in the world. There was a point in my teenage years I used to cry myself to sleep. Now I'm in my 20s, I'm closest to my half-sister. We are only a year apart and she is the one I would probably tell. I can back it up with a DNA test if she's skeptical. I know I should also speak to a lawyer if I do go down the inheritance route, but before I do, I want to know other people's views and maybe get some advice. In regards to any potential inheritance, as people are bringing it up, I live in the UK and I am entitled to his assets as his other children, no matter what your opinion is of me trying to go down this route. Though he may have written me out of his will or leave me £1. It's easy to say I'm greedy whilst looking at it, but I've been carrying this burden emotionally. I will never have a relationship with him in that way. He's made it clear and I don't want it either. Whether you view that as greedy is up to you, but as I said, I'm currently in a lose-lose situation. Also, I would not want to go after his assets now. Trying to go after back payments of child support etc. would just cause a lot of drama. My mum contacted a lawyer 2 years ago after my dad refused to put his name on my birth certificate. The lawyer said my mum can obtain backdated bank statements showing him sending her a biannual checks, and this could be used in the future. As well as the knowledge within my family of him being my father, which could be used in the future in court to dispute a will. Only my mother's siblings know about this. I don't believe their own children do. There is also the option to take a DNA test. I could do this to prove to my half-siblings that what I am saying is true. My mother did write to my father when she first told me about him being my father. She never told me I couldn't tell anyone, so I tried to tell my half-sister. She asked my father, who denied it. I also tried to bring it up in front of my half-sister again, when she was with some kids from my father's side of the family. This was in front of my maternal grandmother, who also denied it. We were only about 8 years old, but those shoot-downs were enough to make me believe I should never try to tell anyone again and forget it. I believe my grandmother only denied it because she was put on the spot and didn't know what else to say, as we were all children. My whole family will continue to go on about life like we are cousins unless I decide to reveal the truth. The last time I saw my father was 5 years ago, as I now avoid visiting. Partly because this situation upsets me, and partly because I feel guilty for keeping this secret, as I also see his kids when I'm there. He would sit there asking me a few questions about my job/life, and I have to sit and politely answer in front of my family, without being able to acknowledge the truth or ask him the questions I really want to know the answers to. This is such a unique family situation that I can't just Google an answer. I just really need some advice on how to deal with it. I don't want to cause drama in my family and don't want to upset my auntie. My half-siblings are old enough to know, and I want them to. I am not a secret and shouldn't have to feel less worthy. I would hugely appreciate others' perspective on how I should deal with this. TLDR, my mother had an affair with her sister's husband. He refused to use a condom the first time they had sex, and I was the result. He wanted me aborted and has never acknowledged me as his child. His other children don't know I am their half-sibling, as we grew up thinking we were cousins. I have no relationship with him and have never had him as a father figure. No birthday/Christmas cards etc. He doesn't want his kids or extended family to find out about me, but I am tired of being the family secret. I'm at a point where I want people to know and this be acknowledged. As well as almost no financial assistance, I believe I won't be given anything from him as inheritance, but I live in the UK and would be legally entitled to. I'm unsure of how to deal with the situation in terms of telling my half-siblings. And from a legal perspective what I can do. I don't want to go down the blackmail route. I'm thinking about telling my closest half-siblings and seeing their reaction and possibly doing a DNA test to prove it to them if they're skeptical. Sounds to me like this is partly about wanting to be acknowledged as being your father's child and about the inheritance. Based on what you said, you grew up not having much while your siblings got more than you did. It feels to me like part of you wants some inheritance based on that. You have to decide whether all this is worth the potential backlash. Whatever you decide to do, it's gonna suck. There is no guarantee that your siblings will open arm accept you. I can tell you from personal experience. My uncle had an affair with a woman and had a child. We found out a couple years ago. Apparently his wife knew about the affair. The other woman was a family friend and we all had met the child before. To us she was a friend. After this all came out, the child, who was now 25, reached out to her siblings. They wanted nothing to do with her. They stopped talking to their dad and refused to speak with her. The rest of the family was forced to pick sides. We still maintain contact with uncle's kids. We have limited contact with my uncle. He and his wife are still together. Some of the family had tried to include the affair child in family events, and every time she comes, half the family that is upset about the whole situation, including her siblings, leave the event and it ends in disaster. My uncle's kids basically told the family that if their half-sister is at any family events, they will not come or be a part of it. 2 years later, nothing has changed. It's still a mess. Most of us don't have any contact with the affair child. Basically, it came down to picking sides, and because we all grew up with my uncle's kids, most of us just have family events with them. It sucks. I feel terrible for her cause. She wanted to be accepted by the family. I ended up maintaining contact with my uncle's other kids and not her, for the simple fact that I didn't know her well at all. We had met a couple times. I grew up with the other kids since we were little. I chose that relationship over her. And that's pretty much how the rest of the family went. I think now she's probably in more pain. I'm not saying this situation is what is going to happen to you. You could have a good outcome. I hope this isn't about money for you. So ultimately you have to decide that the possibility of this blowing up badly, if this is something you can leave with or not. If you can, then go for it and see what happens. Good luck. I found out I was an affair baby. My birth mother kept me a secret. She thought she would pass me off as her husband's child but decided to hide her pregnancy, then give me away for adoption. She had an affair with her husband's brother. She thought by giving me away I would never find her or her family, but I did. She is not happy about it because my adoptive parents told her I would never find out I was adopted and would never contact her. My adoptive parents are also pissed I am looking for my birth family. They asked me how would I feel if they told me I wasn't their real daughter. They feel they are my real family. My birth mom told me she would pay me off to stay away and not say anything. I feel even more hurt. I am a product of an affair and my birth mother did not really give a damn about me. After I was born, she got pregnant again a few months later with her husband's child. My adoptive family is not helping me at all, and right now I do not speak to them. I hate how my life is right now. I did not choose any of this and I am suffering. My whole life was a lie. My adoptive parents did not tell me I was adopted. I had to find out because I have a genetic blood disorder that can kill me. My kids are at risk for it. I just don't know what to do or how to cope right now. It just sucks. My birth mom had an affair and did not tell anyone. She was not poor or anything. She could have kept me, but she did not want to deal with the product of the affair, me. That's so wrong. An adopted person should always be told they're adopted. You find out anyway. My uncle adopted a child 10 years before I was born. My cousin attempted to trace her biological parents. She wrote to her biological mother. Her biological mother wrote back saying that while she hoped my cousin would have a long and happy life, she couldn't have a relationship with my cousin as my cousin was the product of an affair, and her biological mother was still married to the guy she cheated on. The full story is my cousin's biological mother was married, but her husband went to work for a year in England. I'm Irish. In the 1960s, travel wasn't as easy as it is now, so when you went to England you didn't get home that easily. In the meantime, my cousin's biological mother began an affair with a friend of hers, and as contraception wasn't heard of back in Holy Catholic Ireland of that era, she soon got pregnant. She decided to put my cousin up for adoption. Oh, me. I was the product of an affair and I broke up the marriage. Still grappling with it a little bit, but it doesn't much concern me. I am not responsible for anyone's decisions back in the 80s. I get to leave and breathe and listen to music and enjoy snow and have my own kids because some people were drunk and irresponsible in the 80s. You've made a shocking discovery and it's gonna be a lot to handle. Welcome to our club that none of us asked to be in. You're in a special contingent. You're a late discovery adoptee. You are going to face a number of hurdles the rest of us don't have to. You're going to have resulting trust issues and possibly irreparably damaged relationships with your parents. Maybe not what you want to hear, but it's a reality you might face. I'm not even gonna try to tell you that all will turn out okay. It may not. But there is support out there and there is help for you. As everyone else has said, you would do well to seek out a therapist, preferably one who is versed in adoption issues, especially LDA, and start to process this. Seeking help from a mental health professional is no different and no more shameful than calling in a plumber when you're out of your depth. They have experience, tools, and resources that we don't have. I'm sorry to hear about your blood disorder. I wish adoptions included extensive medical histories. I could have avoided type 2 diabetes if I'd known about it. Good luck, my friend.